Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Real 1% podcast. I'm your host, Michael Daly, and today we got a Boricua on the
Ah,
line. My man Enrique. He's a Navy veteran with over 26 years of service. He's actually an entrepreneur. He's the CEO of Triad Leadership Solutions LLC. He is named on the Power List Top 200 at number 76 through the leaders that follow him in 2021. By 2022, on People Hum, and he's a nominee of the top 30 global guru list of 2021 as well. He's a John Maxwell certified leadership coach. He's a mentor. He's doing big things. He's a fellow podcast extraordinaire. He loves leadership and development. Let's see. Man's been doing this thing for over 20 years as well in the civilian sector. I always see him going live on LinkedIn. I always see him doing things. But today we got him on the show. So without further ado, Enrique, ¿qué
hey,
pasó?
my man, thank you so much for allowing me to be on your show, and I'm excited about this conversation.
Dude, I appreciate you, man. I could have kept going with the accolades, man, but I said we just got to dive in, dude, and just get going, man.
Let's
So
just get this on.
let's get it going, man. And you see he's repping. I love the background. I see you got the ship back there. You got some statues, and you're right up in the road in Orlando. So we said we're about to go down
Oh
to
yeah,
Liberty. Yeah, we about to link up in Tampa sometime soon and go to a fellow veterans restaurant. So looking forward to that as well. But to get
absolutely.
things going, what made you join the Navy, man?
Yeah, Navy was a second choice, almost a directed choice, because originally I had stepped up to the Air Force recruiter's office. And in Ponce, Puerto Rico, all the recruiters are like in common place. They're all sit by each other, and I turn in, my AFQT score, and they was like, "You might want to go see somebody else." And so, at the time, I guess they had a standard, and I didn't meet it. So I went to the next office, which was the Navy, and I said, "Hey, these guys next door don't want me. What you guys got for me?" And they gobbled it up and offered me meteorology and oceanography, and I was like, "Bet, let's go."
Uh, did you know what you were getting yourself into when they told you that? Did they sell you on the dream, travel the world, do the thing, see the seven seas? What they tell you?
No, I was an easy take, man. I literally remember asking the recruiter, "Hey, all I need is an office space environment, air conditioning." Now, I'm telling you, I was in Puerto Rico, right?
Yeah.
All I need is some AC and something interesting. And lo and behold, they pulled up their sheet and they said, "Hey, this AG is available, and it starts here in November." And I said, "Well, let's go, let's do it." And that was it. And 26 years later, at the top of the senior enlisted ranks as an AG, the full time, and loved every bit of it.
What was your mindset going in? Just a quick trip out of Puerto Rico, maybe do a couple years and bounce back, or did you go in open minded, say, "Hey, maybe I'll make this thing a career"?
No, I definitely did not want to come back to the island. I didn't.
Yeah. Okay.
So I grew up in the Bronx, and so the
Okay.
island, although I was born there, I wasn't raised there. And so
Okay.
you take me to the Bronx and you show me the world because we literally are a melting pot. And then my mom decided in the 11th grade that it was a great idea to take this kid that was about to graduate and go to college back to the island. And unfortunately, where we landed was not a great place. Definitely, to me, it was worse than the Bronx. And I was looking for a way out and off the island. And the Navy provided that.
So you went from, Puerto Rico, got a rainforest, then you went to the concrete jungle, then back to the island. But man, like, okay, let's hit a little bit before we dive into the Navy thing for the viewers. How was it growing up in New York, man? What do you remember growing up as a kid? I mean, was it the tough times? Was it during the crack pandemic? Like, what were you before that? After that? How was it growing up as a kid there?
Look, I grew up in three areas. The first one was a place they call La Marqueta, which is basically Spanish Harlem, uh, in
Okay.
in Manhattan, and then we went to a better place called the South Bronx. So it wasn't all, it just was what it was, and I grew up in those elements. But even in those environments of drugs and gangs and this, that, and the other, there are pockets of humans that actually, do good. And so I was
Right.
fortunate to be in those areas. My mom never did get us into a very hot spot, but anywhere you go, you can stumble into that in the Bronx. So around good people, around good environments, not everything that happened was good in my life. I definitely had some challenges there as a young man trying to grow up in the concrete jungle. Um,
Right.
but uh, it was a pretty good life. I mean, I never got into major trouble. I always dabbled into this, that, or the other, but was not involved in drugs. Was not involved in drinking. Not involved in smoking. Not involved into any other things that would lead me onto something else. At
Right.
10 years old, I grew up in the church. So, uh, that challenge of how do I keep this holy life and in an unholy place, and
Right.
just trying to make the best of my time there.
Okay. So fast forward, you shipping off to Navy boot camp. How was that? How was that experience for you looking back on it now?
Look, if I tell this all the time. I went from a one island to another. I came here to Florida. Actually, my boot camp was here in Orlando. I was so happy because I said the next option was Great Lakes. And I'm like, man, you're
Ooh,
gonna take me
nah.
from an island and put me in deep frost. But
Yeah.
it was here, Orlando, and that year Florida had a deep freeze. So I didn't escape it at all. I still
Lucky
got
you,
it.
man. They knew you were coming, man. They knew you were
They
coming. So we
knew
about to
it.
get Enrique, man.
They knew it. Let's welcome him back.
For
And
real. I didn't even know they had basic training in Orlando, to be honest with you.
they did, and they still have an element, a Navy element here. There's a small Navy base here, not that big, but the Navy Exchange is still here. Still, it remained here for all that time, and
Okay.
so I'm happy because it's right there, and I get to see it.
So you go from basic training to your schooling. How was that going for you? And then bring us up also from your schooling to your first duty station or your first ship assignment.
Yeah, so basic training was great. I was what they call RCPO, basically the leader of the the recruits, and graduated with honors, got advancement, this, that, and the other. Uh, my first what they call service school, which is for AG for meteorology and oceanography, was up in the Great Lakes area, so I didn't escape that route. It was Chanute Air Force Base up in Rantoul, Illinois, and it was I literally saw trees made of ice. It was straight,
Oh
yeah.
man.
It was crazy, but the Navy decided, and I would just say my trajectory was already set, but I graduated. The funny thing, graduated last in my class, and I got the best choice of orders. So whenever they say, "Hey, if you do great in your class, you'll get first pick," look, it didn't. It worked out for me. And lo and behold, they sent me to paradise. So I get shipped off to Hawaii. I spent the next 10 years in Hawaii after that.
Man, you had to suffer first. They'll go up to the Great Lakes,
I
freeze a
did.
little
I did.
bit, and you had to pay the price. You paid it
They,
forward, man. It's all
well,
good.
it took them 10 years to thaw me out after that.
For real, man. So how was the thaw out period in Hawaii? Never been there yet. Know it's beautiful. Know
Oh
the
yeah.
food's great, the culture. But how was your time there?
Yeah, time in Hawaii was what it is. It is truly paradise. My wife and I are destined to go back uh, as retirees to live our days there. But Hawaii. as a culture, as a place, wonderful. I still had to navigate what early Navy career looked like. And back in the, early, well, late 80s, early 90s, which is when I got to Hawaii, there was still some growing pains in the Navy, in military, uh, in terms of how they saw different cultures, right? Although in the military we get a sample of everyone, not everyone came from a period of time where cultures were accepted as well. And I just
Absolutely.
fell into and I say this, I got it gets better. I fell into the hands of a man that grew up in the military when that wasn't flavors weren't, something that he saw a lot of, and it was terrible, man. Our first 3 years were terrible, bro. Um, in the aspect of I had a leader that did not appreciate me being Puerto Rican, right? And it's just that's just what it was, man. It did form me. It did toughen me up. It did set the rest of my career on its course. But I will admit that it wasn't the best course in terms of how people should, you know, chart a course to success. Right? I was uh, and I had a vindictive mind, like nobody's gonna ever do that to me again, and things like
Right.
that. So it began tough, but like I mentioned, it was 10 years when I was in Hawaii, and I was able to, under great mentorship, under great supervisors, under people that show different things, to learn how to navigate the new version of the Navy, and it got better.
No, but that's kind of wild to say that because wild and true at the same time. You're not the first person that's came on here and said that people are cut from a different cloth, right? We all are, but man, skin color, as they say in the military in the more modern days, we're all green or we're all, this,
Right,
that, and
right,
the fourth. But that's just not the case for everybody. Not everyone's raised the same. Some
right.
people are prejudiced, some people are racist, and that's the reality of life. But that's a sad case, man. You get to paradise, you're defrosting, and then you get hung up. Then you get hung up with someone like that. You can laugh at it now, but going
Yeah,
through it,
yeah,
what was your mindset like, and what helped you get through it? Obviously, you got God on your side.
yeah.
That probably played a good part in it. But at the same time, you probably like, God, why me? Why this? I'm in paradise. Why can't I enjoy the fruits of my labor? But everything happens for a reason. But looking back
Right.
on it now, what do you think a life lesson was from that experience?
Yeah, a life lesson was that we have a say. So now there's going to be a lot of environments you get thrown in. There are
Right.
going to be a lot of things that you get to face in life. But one thing is for sure, you get to say. You get to say what it is you will allow and won't. And
That's
believe
true.
me, as a young man, wanting to, please their supervisors and the people they were working for, because my mom raised me that way. She didn't care. Well, I have an uncle that's 1 year less than me. He's
Hmm.
1 year younger than me. And so I was raised that it did not matter age. Age was a thing, and also position was a thing, right? So I honored my uncle even if he was younger than me, because his position was he was my uncle. And then also, if there was any elder, my mom was straight. She like, if they're older than you honor them, And so I grew up in that honor system, and so I was just trying to be a good servant, right? A good sailor, um, and but I didn't know that I had a say. It's not
Right.
something that I was taught. Um, During that time, where I was having these difficulties, I just said, what can you do? I guess the Bronx came out. The
Yeah,
Bronx.
the BX came out, man.
And I said, what can I do to ensure that this doesn't happen to me again? And what can I do to ensure that any sailor that I have under me that I can protect. And so what I did was I reinvented myself. Back then we all had in offices this big red book. As a matter of fact, I have one back there, a big red book called the dictionary. And so his gripe was, "Hey, I don't understand you." And so as a meteorologist, you have to brief. You have to stand in front of people. You have to give the whole observations, analysis, and forecast, right? So his gripe was, "You don't speak good English. I don't understand you. You know, well, your accent is too strong." And so, but he would do that in front of everybody, right? So it was just one of those processes. And I said, okay, well, if that's the gripe, not only am I going to become the best communicator here, but I'm going to learn how to use this word as a sword. And so that's the part that I did that I shouldn't have gone down, right? Um, eh, eh, because then I became the abuser. I became the
Yeah,
abuser because now I know something you don't, and I would throw it in his face all the time, right? So we would,
I can't blame you, man.
yeah, but hindsight, I'm saying for those listening, and if you happen to be in that situation, the sword is reserved for protection, right? It's not given for abuse. And so
Right.
and people of arms, we know there's an escalation of force. You got to meet force with the force that's given, and so we understand that. But anyway, a young man did not understand that. All I knew is that that man was never going to do that to me again. And so what started happening was that I would get up there and I was starting to sound more eloquent than he would. And boy,
Oh, that's it.
could
That
you
probably set him
imagine?
off, but you were on a mission of vengeance, man. You know what I mean? Like because of this, that probably fueled a fire in you that obviously kept it lit, kept it going, and motivated you. Probably put you in fight or flight before you might have even knew what that was.
Exactly. And so, hindsight, that vengeance thing was not the right way to do it. But since I didn't have a guidance, that was the only alternative that I found to number one, uh, shut the criticism, and it wasn't constructive, obviously, but
Right.
also to ensure that no one else attacked me that way, and also give someone else hope if they were succumbing to those tactics of his, right?
Absolutely.
And but what ended up happening was that I became the go-to guy when it came to speaking, writing, creating, narratives, and on evaluations, you just got to give the right narrative. So now I became the go-to for how to dominate a language I was being accused of not using right.
How'd that make you feel when all that happened, when it came full circle like that?
Yeah, no, it was a good feeling, but I also felt empty, right? Because that's what vengeance does. It gives you a perceived success, and then all you see is that, man, I just became like this dude, except that now I could do it better than him. And
Right.
and and so I started to navigate, how to pull back from that, because that was not my intent, although I did want to protect myself. I just used language to do it.
Absolutely. So you got through those 3 years. What
Yeah.
happened for the next seven? And during this time in paradise, were you like, "Hey, I'm all in. I'm staying 20." What was your mindset like then?
Yeah, back then, I had made some early mistakes in life that I had to navigate through. Um, I got into a relationship I shouldn't have. That kind of caused me some trouble on the other side. because in the military, the whole family is involved, and when it's not a good influence at home, it does affect your military career. So the troubles did not go away. Just one version of my troubles went away when that senior enlisted left. I somehow in the next 6 years, I just attracted some of the some of the troubles that I was going to. I remember having because of my family life, I had a captain tell me by message. Now imagine this, by message, I will be waiting for you on the pier to personally escort you out of the Navy. And
What?
I said, what? Because when you make personal errors in the military, meaning relationships or whatever it may be. Finances is usually one of those things that come up. But in my case, it was relationship. It turns into finances. It was just a turmoil of a first 6 years, really. Um, that my work now, all of my labor to make myself the best, was being overshadowed by personal decisions that did not suit me. And what I started seeing was that, hey, Enrique, maybe, okay, maybe that first 3 years was him, uh, but now it's you. It's you.
Mm,
And you're making the wrong choices there. And so, you get into that. The only thing, the only thing that saved me was that I did so well at my job during my deployments that captains were sent. I got a Navy Achievement Medal as an E4.
yeah.
And how he's gonna how he's gonna separate somebody that just came back from deployment with a Navy Achievement Medal, right? So I chose to start focusing on a good career, a career that I would be happy to represent, and one that would potentially help me while I was dealing with this personal thing, right?
Yeah.
And so that's how that kind of went away.
What do you think led you down those wrong decisions? Like it was just, living and learning. I mean, in the military, we
Yeah,
know a lot of things happen. I did the same thing, man. You do this for the wrong reason. You get married for the wrong reason. You do all this stuff because you think
right.
it's a quick way to get more money in your pocket or the right thing to do at the time. But in hindsight, looking back, you're like, man, that might have almost cost me my career. So I can relate to you on that as well.
Yeah. So if I was to just kind of sum up the way I was thinking at that time, uh, I have to admit that I was a great liar, man. I was a great liar. And so my whole first, I would say, 6 years of my career was me trying to navigate, how did I, what was the last lie I did, and how to do this, and so I was paying the price as I see it now. I was paying the price for my deceptions, and it just showed up in forms of my relationships, in forms of the way I was dealing with people. And it goes to just to be reminded that everything we do has a consequence, right? Once you
Absolutely.
put a dab in that water, once you put your finger in that water, ripples are going out. And so I felt that at that time, that's what was happening to me. And thankfully, the relationship thing came to an end, but I still had to kind of navigate those ripples as they were going out. Now, the good thing about ripples is as they go out, they go down, and then it normalizes, right? And you talk about decisions. You can overcome bad decisions. You just need to start considering what relationship you have with those decisions. What what's making you decide those things. And if you can get to that nitty gritty, I think you can survive and just become the best version of that you're supposed to be.
So what overall made you that paradigm shift to have the mind shift switch to say, let me stop lying to myself doing this and then let me become the best version of myself? Because obviously you're not getting named mentor of the year for 2014, 2017 and doing all this stuff that you actually have achieved in your
Yeah.
life and that you continue to do when you're lying to yourself and doing that. So what was it for you to have that shift?
Yeah, it was my wife, my current wife. She was a not only a godsend, uh, she was able to bring some reality, reality. She does that daily sometimes, and I'm grateful. But it having and we talk about environments, and definitely when I speak about leadership, I always talk about environments. Obviously, I have some great stories to dig back into to let people know that these things do occur. But environment is so important to how you grow, and she's just the best environment for me to grow, and through her patience, forgiveness, support, encouragement, and all the other slew of words that I could throw at what she provides. Um, I was able to right size and be able to focus on the things that really matter, and learn to how to focus on ensuring that my days are ones that give and support so that others can go farther, right? And that's what I started to focus on.
When she first got on you, how'd that make you feel?
Yeah, obviously, when you get confronted with things that you may know but think nobody else knows, it's always a hard thing to swallow. It's always a hard pill to swallow. But what I noticed was that it was coming from a heart of concern. It was coming from a heart that cared, and you have no other choice but to listen to that, and
Absolutely.
come to the grip of, hey, bro, this it really is because you have created this uh false narrative, right? You've created this false narrative, and good thing is that you don't have to lose all your ground, but you must dish out and get out all the things that are kind of like diverging you, making you
Absolutely.
less potent as you go down the road.
Okay. So 10 years in paradise, reality check in place,
Hmm.
good wife by your side. What's next on the agenda for you for your follow-on years in the Navy?
Yeah, follow on years were amazing. A lot of great opportunities afforded me by my community. As a matter of fact, at the end of my career, they were so kind to create an award for senior enlisted leaders, and I actually was awarded the inaugural award for best senior enlisted leader of that year. And those things that occur, uh, which I think I believe I spoke about this yesterday. We grow, but there's some areas that we kind of still have to deal with. I had received that award, and I was happy. I was happy. I did enjoy the fact that I was the one selected. Right, there's only one a year, but
Absolutely.
I also did not make E9 that year. And so not making E9 to me trumped that the loss of that or not receiving or getting that, attaining that, kind of trumped and kind of dampened the fact that I had just received this award. And so I spoken about it yesterday. I did not fully enjoy that moment because I had a perception of success that was not real, right?
Okay.
It wasn't rank. Um, and I say this today, obviously, I'm almost 8 years retired now. It wasn't ranked. It wasn't position. It was the lives that I left behind that were better because they got to serve with me,
Right.
and that was the true joy. So, later on, after a lot of conversation with a lot of people, you realize that. But it's a shame that I did not fully enjoy that moment of receiving that award.
You're not the first person that said something along those lines. Just I've talked to a couple other veterans, and they've said, they didn't get picked for a certain promotion, and it was detrimental to their mindset at the time, whether
Right.
they were, getting recognized for something else or making their way out the military. So it seems to be a common denominator amongst veterans. So when did you start? Or before I get to that question, I want to
Mhm.
ask you, what was your favorite place you visited in the Navy?
Yeah, favorite place. I favorite place to live was Hawaii, and it will always be Hawaii. But favorite place to visit, I went in a Med cruise. We went to Malta.
Okay.
Man, that place has such a rich history.
Yeah.
In world history, right? Our
Yeah.
very first battles as a navy were kind of that were abroad were there, and Malta played a huge, uh, important piece in our naval history. But going back there and seeing these old buildings, not anything like we had over there, in Virginia or anything, not colonial. These were like old world type building. Was such an amazing thing. So I would say Malta was probably the best.
They got Popeye's Village over there, man, in Malta, right? Like, did you have sea legs when you're underway? How was that for you, man?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was fortunate to not get seasick. I believe there were some times because when you're out there and you're on a destroyer in the northern Pacific and you're literally walking like this, it takes a lot not to keep it in, right? So, but for the most part, I was on like amphibs and things like that, which are bigger, right? And you have the ships
Okay.
behind you. Uh, so I was fortunate to be on pretty stable platforms.
Okay, that's good to hear. I could never do the Navy, man. I get sick sitting in the backseat of a car, dude. So I'm
Now
not growing sea
you
legs,
put me
dude.
on a fishing trip and I'll sleep the whole time.
You'd be sitting with a Dramamine patch behind your
Yep,
ear.
yep.
Yeah, man. I hear you. I hear you. When did you start thinking about your transition out of the Navy? When did that come about?
How about 6 months before I transitioned? so so
Fair enough.
so yeah, transition for me was not a thing.
Mm,
And the year that I got notified that I did not make E9 was the last year that I had an opportunity to be looked for of that promotion.
okay.
Up until that notification, which was done in person, because I was actually part of a senior enlisted group that was doing some strategy sessions, and the word came in, right. And obviously we're all senior enlisted, so we all got the word at the same time. But up until that moment, not only me, but everyone, everyone I spoke to was for sure that I was going to be on that list this year. I mean,
Mm,
I'm talking about a fleet master chiefs up, and and so it was a shock. It was a shock, and also since it was so late in my career, I only had 6 months left on my contract. So I had 6 months to figure this thing out. Um, and so it was tough.
You thinking you're gonna have about a good 5 more years left. You know, you're gonna get that E9. You got to put that on. Give the Navy a couple more years at least, and keep riding off into the sunset. Hopefully, get back to Illinois, freeze a little bit more. I'm hoping you're
No,
probably looking to get that. I'm messing with you. You're not looking,
no,
probably looking to get back to Hawaii or something warm, man. But
yeah,
like, what was, you know, first and foremost, you don't make the list. You that's detrimental to your mental state at the
yeah,
time. And how did you turn the corner and start preparing yourself for life after the Navy?
yeah.
What did
Well,
that look like for you?
that's that same wife that right sized me and got me on the right place also provided some reality, right? Hey, okay, well then that's that. Let's focus on what's important for the next. And so, we sat down, we made a plan, we ensured that the next 6 months uh, were effective in making sure that we left with no debt from the military, that we were positioned to have the highest rating on our FICO scores, to facilitate home buying, all that stuff. She just had a plan and we stuck to it, and it worked. It worked. And I think the biggest thing out of all of that was just having someone to on at my side to say, we got this, you know because it was pretty scary when I was like, oh my, 6 months. What am I doing? What am I gonna do now?
It's not a lot. It's not a lot of time, man. You get the weekends built in there. You might have holidays. You might have this, that, and the fourth. So it goes by fast. Um, did you ever have anyone in the Navy ask you what you were going to do after service?
I so the military, and I'm gonna say this with the caveat that not everyone thinks that way and not everybody speaks like this. But this is what I got out of it, out of that time. They could care less.
Straight up, dude.
That's it.
Straight up.
Because even being in the military and knowing that I had 6 months, it wasn't like they were, hey, just we'll get somebody to do what you do. Go take care of that. We know you're going to need it. No, you still got to work, and you still got to do this,
Absolutely.
and you still got to do that. And you still got to travel, and you still got to, so the way I was going through those 6 months was like, man, I gotta pinch every ounce of time I can to ensure that this thing goes out, that we get out of here right, because
Absolutely.
we weren't positioned to get employment there in Hawaii, although we would have loved to have stayed. The economy, if you ever lived in Hawaii, rent there for for a 2 bedroom house or apartment is in the thousands, right?
Yeah.
So retirement wasn't going to cut it all. You had to get a job, and I'm sure if I would have gotten one, it could have facilitated us staying, but it was just too fast of a time. So we decided, hey, what's more economical? But and all that to say is that I felt that was not important for the military. What was important is that you finish out your job and pass everything on to somebody else. And so,
Yeah.
and they throw you to these tap classes and things, but I'll tell you that that's more of a check in the box because it's a legislature thing
Mm.
than it is, man, I really care for you. Go get this, and don't come back until you got it right.
And that hit hard. That hits hard coming from a senior NCO, man. Honestly, I did 8 years, and I have the same thought as you. As you're going through a grinder, you're getting replaced. They don't care now. Like you said, you might have that one person that's in there, but really they're all going to formation the next day. You got to get with somebody that's already gone through it. They're not in the building. They're not in the meteorology section waiting to come and talk to you. What just happened the other day? Bill Belichick and Nick Saban both got replaced in a day. If they're getting, I mean, these people are top tier, two of the best football coaches of all times. why not you in the military? They're going to push you out. Everyone's time's coming. And I love to have I love to have every veteran on here and talk, because it's the same as if you're a private or if you're David Petraeus. It doesn't,
Oh yeah.
you know what I mean? But 6 months doesn't even give you enough time to do the skill bridge program. So that's a whole different thing. Some people have success with it. Some people say they've had great transition out, but sometimes when you're looking to make a list and you're banking on a promotion and it doesn't happen, you don't even have enough time to go and fulfill a skill bridge program because you got shorter than the time allotted for the program on the books. So what did your plan look like that you came up with? Your real quick before I ask you that, what you said, you're talking about a FICO score, you're talking about no star card, you're talking about no debt. What did your plan of attack look like for your VA disability if you had one?
Yeah, well, check. So no one spoke about VA.
For
So
real though, they
yeah,
didn't. You were weak
no,
if you went to the you
yeah,
were weak. It's the common denominator, man, that needs to change, because you're not weak. You're actually smart, and you're setting yourself up and your family for success if you get help. Now, like you talk to pilots and stuff like that, yeah, you may lose your job, but you're gonna lose that job one day. You're not gonna fly forever. But I want to hear coming from you, because I feel like everyone's has a different experience, but a lot of people have the same uh, things in common. So go ahead.
yeah. My wife was the reason why I was able to do anything with the VA. For a long time, she was like, "Hey, you need to go to the doctor because you know it sounds like you stop breathing at night." And I'm like, "What?" She goes, "You scare me." I mean, and you wake up, you're like gasping for air, and I was like, I, I, I don't remember none of that because I'm a deep sleeper, right? So
Right,
she's like,
right,
no, something's wrong. And so I said, okay, well, I mean, I guess I'm not staying in the military, so let me go see the doc about it.
right.
I go see the doc. They wake me up within that hour of a sleep study. And at this time, she's going through a medical course, and her practical was at a sleep study center. So this is why she was like, "Yo, I see people like you all the time. You need to go." So I
Right.
go there, the VA, not at the VA, but at the actual military hospital,
Okay.
and they wake me up. They're like, "Yo, you're like one of the worst we've seen," and I'm like, "Huh?" He's like, "Yo, you stop breathing 54 times in an hour." I
Damn,
said,
every almost every
"Almost
minute, man.
every minute." I
Come
said,
on.
I
What?
said, I said, how did I survive to live this long then? They're like, I don't know. And so lo and behold, there's some other things that are going on, and they package this thing, and then they put it in my record, right? So I'm now they give me, and this happening within my 6 times. So now it's part of my military profile. And she's like, go do this, go see them for that. And up until then, going to medical for anything was a potential of being on a program that would throw you into a medical evaluation, right? And so for
Right,
somebody that can give so much, you don't want to be in that situation. So you don't take care of it. You
right,
don't, right? As long
right.
as it ain't killing you, you don't go.
Drink
And
water,
so,
drink water and take ibuprofen, man.
hey,
Military mindset
yeah,
of the
yeah.
week or
And
whatever. Yeah.
so had it not been for her, going through this course or whatever, or being the voice of reason medically, I probably would have not been in the position that I am today with the VA, right? And I'm still
Absolutely.
fighting some other things. And it's a process, it's a process that nowadays takes over a year to get, right?
Absolutely.
So if you out there and you listening, man, forget that. Go to the doctor. And yeah, look, if you're in service and you're meant to serve your full time, you're gonna be there. But guess what?
Absolutely.
If you get sick, they're gonna get rid of you. so
Yeah, you might
so
as well
go
get it documented.
exactly. Go get it
Like,
documented. Go get whatever attention you need. because it has to be service connected. And if it ain't and you're hiding it, good luck. Good luck.
Nah, for real, man. The VA is not going to just start shelling out money for the hell of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you listening right now, you could stop this video and call 1-800-827-1000 and go ahead and put an intent to file in. If you wait and then you're thinking about up in the air about putting a claim in, because what that will do for you is going to give you a whole calendar year to get that claim in. That's more than enough time. That's more than enough time.
Yep.
Stop procrastinating. You didn't do it when you're in the service. I can't stand when people say we don't have time, or we don't have this, or you don't have this, or you don't have that. That's nonsense. You make time for what you want to do. You got time to watch television. You got time to go out to eat. Make time for yourself and your family and take care of it if you got to do it. And like Enrique said, get a sleep study while you're in the military, because it's going to be a whole lot easier saying to happen in service. Because if you wait to get out, it's still possible. People, don't let no one tell you otherwise, because I got my sleep study done when I was out of the military through the VA. But what you're going to have to do is tie it in with a medical nexus from someone that's not the VA, because they're not going to say it's from service because you're already out. So do yourself a service. Do that while you're in.
And for those that don't know about the VA's position is they are not there to prove it.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
They're there to treat it, right? You got to prove it. And so a lot of people think that when they get, I'll do that when I get out. Too late. It's going to be hard to prove. And they're not there to help you prove it. They're there to make an assessment and to appropriately, based on the assessment and documented proof, to give you what you might or may not deserve, right? Because sometimes they'll apply a percentage and you're like, what? No
10%?
way. No way. I mean, so, it's the system is there to support you, but by supportive documentation. And so they're not going to make it up for you.
No, and you need to get familiar with the CFR 38. You can Google it, and you could start getting informed information for yourself. Don't rely on the VSO only. They're there to help you, but you have to know what you're getting yourself into as well. And when you do go for those claims, don't go in and say everything's fine, because you know what? They're making notes of everything. You got to go in on your worst day. How is it on your worst day? Because what you're going to do is you're going to meet somebody for an hour. They're going to write notes. They're going to send it off to somebody else that you never met, and they're only going to look at the notes.
Yep.
That's how it goes. So don't sell yourself short. Please don't do it. So that's great information, man. I get hyped up about that, dude, because don't leave it on the I got out with 0%, man. I didn't even go to the VA appointment when I got out of the Army from Fort Carson. I said, I'm not going to that, dude. And I blame myself, because no one else is going to want it as bad as us. You know what I mean? You didn't have anyone really in your corner in the Navy because they're serving, and it's on us, folks. It's on us. It's on the individual. And your wife is an MVP.
Oh
and,
yeah.
Your wife's the MVP, man, for real. That's what's up, though. That's good, though, man. You guys power couple, man. So what's one thing you miss most about the Navy? And then talk to us, and don't say camaraderie. You got to get a little bit more creative, because that's the common denominator for everybody.
Right,
and then
right.
Moving forward to that is, how did you stumble upon entrepreneurship and your consulting agency, your podcast, and just everything that you're doing now outside of the Navy?
Yeah, what I miss most is the daily impact on my sailors. I was able to see that. And once you get out and you're not in that conglomerate of people, and you're not the head of this or head of that, you don't see that on a daily basis. And so it's easy to say, man, what am I doing with my life? Right. And we get that purpose fulfilled in military with our troops and sailors. That's probably the most that I miss.
Okay. And then going out of the Navy into all your ventures that you're doing now, your triad leadership, podcast, and stuff like that. How did all that come about?
Well, Triad Leadership Solutions was a brain kind of thought while I was in. I've always been a leadership developer. I have always been that, especially as a senior enlisted. And so I said, you know what? If I'm going to do anything and I get to do whatever I want, then I'm going to be what I want to be. And that's continue to guide people in developing them as leaders. And so, I started with a, scribble. I gave that scribble to my boy. He was also a Navy guy, a computer scientist, and he came up with, he wrote he does. I designed this on a scribble, and he made it real.
There you
And
go.
then, so my boy Carlos, man, God bless you wherever you are, bro. Um, and so I just incorporated and say, all right, what does that look like? And I just started here in Florida, incorporated the company. I just got, and this is for people who are out there trying to talk about entrepreneurship. I started this back in 2017, 2018. I just got my trademark logo now. I mean, literally the last couple of days. And so it's a long road. And if you don't know what you don't know and you're going down the road by yourself, it's going to be hard. So thank the good Lord it's done. And now I own my mark and and I can progress to the next stage. So I
So where
started that. Yeah. And it's been good.
did you get it? Pretty much the John Maxwell. Where did you find that along the way? Did you find that while you're in the Navy still, or is that something that you stumbled across once you got out?
Yeah. Once, back where I started, one of the people I gravitated to because I was in the church as well. Uh, and I was trying to, redefine myself as a leader and started, you know, eating the dictionary. I also remember this pastor, John Maxwell, out of San Diego. They had just started his thing, the leaders, with leaders. And it was early 90s. And I just started following him and his work, and developing the leader within is his book, right?
Right.
And it's the reason why I named my podcast the Developing the Leader Within podcast. Um, I'm surprised he hasn't knocked on my door and say, "Hey, brother, what's going on?" uh, but yeah, so I had followed him for that whole entire time in the Navy, and I knew that. Well, I knew that it would be good to kind of like uh, come up alongside him in what he was doing as a form of helping me transition from uh, a military person to a civilian leader, right? And so I just decided that I would get this certification with him since I already knew him and knew where he had come from, uh, and just use that as a vehicle, uh, kind of like street cred, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you got your street cred, you got your skin in the game a little bit. Where did the podcast spout from? And also, what's been some of the main challenges you face as an entrepreneur in these last couple of years?
Yeah. So the podcast came right around the same time I incorporated the company. I was working for a contract, a company that had military contracts, and I parted ways with them. So it was like immediately, it was February, and then March the pandemic happened. So I had
Okay.
nothing but time at home to do virtual stuff. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. I'm not working, so I might as well continue to push out some of this knowledge that I've gained throughout my career and help somebody out. And so that's where the podcast came from, obviously in homage of John Maxwell. And it has been great. I mean, first year we got an award and it's been growing ever since.
Working at someone on your podcast at.
Yeah, developing the Leader Within podcast everywhere, YouTube and all your podcast platforms will host it. And if you're on LinkedIn, Annie, I usually post on there each episode. But you can go to YouTube and just put at DTLW podcast, and you'll find it.
And my man Enrique got over 21,000 followers on LinkedIn. He's a 3-time LinkedIn top voice, transforming struggling leaders by helping them develop, evolve, and find their way from suckness to success. He's a 2023 top 200 biggest voices in leadership and 2024 Global 100 Executive Coach of the Year. How's that make you feel when you get those accolades?
No, it feels good. It feels good. But I'll tell people, what I've learned. Accolades are a result of your work, right? So be proud of it. They're a
Absolutely.
result, but don't hang your hat on it. And that's something that I did for a long time. What you should hang your hat on is that you're actually using your life for good. And there's a lot of people in the world that are not. And so be proud of that. Honor that you are actually being a light in a very dark world.
Absolutely right, man. What's been some of your hardest times as an entrepreneur to this date? You ever dealt with imposter syndrome, or you just stuck it? You put your head down, kept the foot on the gas, and then you just keep grinding away. But I know you got some struggles that you've overcame throughout the years.
Yeah, it's funny about a year ago, my wife said she was looking at me. I'm like, "What are you looking?" She goes, "You're still struggling with transition."
Mm.
And so,
Was she
um,
right?
oh yeah, 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 uh, as always. But entrepreneurship, whether you're working for someone else, whether you have your own business, whether you want to do contract work, whether you want to be a podcaster, uh, all of those are vehicles. Those are vehicles. And if you put more weight on the vehicle, you'll forget the driver. And so, what's important is for you to focus on you, the driver. What's important for you? What makes you wake up every morning? What makes you happy at the end of the day? When you look in the mirror, what are you most proud of? Do are you spending time and effort, time, talent, and all that you have for the right thing, or is it for the wrong thing? And I was putting a lot of weight on the vehicle, and she just reminded me that vehicles change, and so when you hang your hat on it and it goes away, then what? So it's important for you to dig in and find out what is it that makes you tick, and then use those vehicles to get you there. So if any challenges, it has been my own personal growth, my own leadership growth, which you have to continue to do if you aim to be a leader, a relevant leader, and having somebody by your side that can check you every once in a while and say, "Hey, I'm seeing this," whether you like it or not.
You need that, man. We gotta get your wife on a podcast episode real quick and get her side of the story, man.
Oh
But
yeah.
that's good though, man. Where do you see yourself going now? What's on the horizon for you? What are some of your goals and some aspirations that you're working towards now?
Yeah, so next for me, I have my company that's going well. Next for me is a couple of projects that I have with other companies that I hope to that they come to fruition. But the greatest goal is one. I had a conversation today with one of my brothers from the Navy that is going to help me in this endeavor, and I want to create. I do have Triad Leadership Solutions. It is a consulting firm, but I want to create an academy that will be accepted into Skilled Bridge for facilitating a transition for senior enlisted leaders to come on board as instructors in that academy. And so, what
Okay.
that academy will be is similar to what we have at our branches as senior enlisted. You know, the Sergeant Major Academy, the Senior
Right.
Enlisted Academy for the Navy, the Army has one, the Marine has something familiar. They come to ours. So, you know, there are all these senior enlisted academies that we have for military, but the world doesn't have something like that. And so what I want to do is get the knowledge and all the history that these senior enlisted will bring and create a place where the civilians can come and learn from uh you know, military minded or service connected minded instructors to help them see a little better how veterans can really integrate into their companies, and also how to lead those. Because what happens is, and I've experienced this, is that the world wants military. Oh, we're military friendly. Oh, we love our military. And we love the fact that they have leadership. And then when you hire them, you treat them as a college grad. That's not what they are.
Right.
You know, when you hire a leader and they were military, you don't have to micromanage that one. You know, so
Nah, for real. Seriously.
right. You tell us what hill and at what time, and we're gonna get it done. And so what happens is that I've noticed that the civilian population, although they are appreciative and they love the fact that we served our nation, just does not know how to manage us. And there's not much management that needs to be done. Now, there may be technical things we need to learn and relationship things that we need to learn, right? Because we can't just bark orders. But also, they need to learn who it is that they're hiring. And I want to create a space where we can get leaders from corporate America come in and really dive into what that looks like, so that when they return, not only are they better leaders for the rest of their company, but they're better leaders in receiving military and knowing how to manage that.
So essentially, you're trying to bridge the gap between the disconnect of civilian sector and military sector when it comes to veterans coming on board, because their time's coming. I mean, they're great assets. Some people look at them as a threat. Some people might
Hmm.
look at a veteran's resume and say you're overqualified. That doesn't really even make too much sense sometimes. If I was overqualified, I wouldn't be applying for the job. If you know, it might say this or that on the resume, but like, yeah, we all got to figure out our. Not everyone's going to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
I think there's several 100,000 veterans that are transitioning out of the military, and we all know the military is having a problem right now getting people in the door. But there's plenty of people coming out of the door,
Oh yeah.
and they're not all going to just work at McDonald's for $14 an hour, because we're well qualified to do a lot more than that. So
Exactly.
I'm going to be looking out for you, man, on LinkedIn. I'm going to be looking out for you, plugging away. I know you're connected, so I know a couple people that run the Allegiant Veterans Skill Bridge, so maybe we could tap in with Marcus and Thomas, and you could talk to them. Or Bill, I just had on the other day. He's doing a documentary called Unturning Steel, and he's trying to get veterans to go into manufacturing and stuff like that. So there are veterans like you and Bill and Thomas and Marcus and other people I haven't run into yet that are doing big things. So I'm looking forward to seeing you continue to grow. I'm looking forward to get some barbecue with you, my man, in
Oh
Tampa.
yes, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
and I know we can't probably find that pizza from the Bronx down here, but you know we could get some barbecue or some seafood or whatever. But nah, man, I think it's been a great conversation. I think you left a lot on the line. You were vulnerable, you were open, you were honest. Sometimes it's hard to talk about our downfalls, but at the end of the day, it's what we need to do as veterans and as leaders, because most people on social media, they just put out their best version of themselves, you know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean, and everyone
Yep.
gets they get judgmental on that. They don't show you on the worst day. Same thing with the VA
Exactly.
claim. Don't care about the best version of yourself on that day. It's about the worst day, because when we become more vulnerable and open, that shows other people that we're approachable. You know what I mean? Like, oh wow, this guy's not always just saying he's in the Bahamas, or he's on trips and cruises. Like, this guy's a
Right.
real
Right.
this dude's real. He's struggling too. So nah, I just appreciate that. And I want to ask you one last question, and I'll turn it over to you for any closing remarks. My question is to you: what would be your advice for another E8 looking to make that E9, or not even just that, just another military veteran or military member in service that's yet to transition? What, going through all your years of service, all your hardships, all your ups and downs, what would your advice to them be?
Yeah. My advice for them would be to understand that the military is not forever. And you have to come back. I often refer to us as the 1% that got forgotten.
Hmm,
Because in our world, the military world, we forget about the rest of the world.
true.
And so what happens when, you end up being the 1% that the world got used to, that the other 99% of the world got used to living without? They got used to it. And so when we come out, there should be no expectations, right? It's nice that there are military programs. It's nice that they're welcoming, all of that. But you was gone for whatever time you served. And
Right.
so understand that, and also understand that if you want to do whatever amount of time you want to do, that's fine. Have a strategy from right now on how you're going to reintegrate with the world, because it's bigger than you think, although sometimes it's smaller than, than you think. Um, so
For real.
just strategize. We know how to do it. You just need to do it on your reintegration with the rest of the world.
Absolutely. And it's funny you say that, because in business, usually people strategize, they reverse engineer. How am I going to get out of this business? How am I going to sell this business? How we should be doing the same thing. If I could
Exactly.
go back and do it again, I would have been like, all right, well, I'm gonna do this when I get out the military, or I'm gonna start. It sounds weird maybe for some, but honestly, in business, it's not weird. People talk about it all the time. I'm sure if you could go back and do it, you would say, you know what, I'm gonna start working on it now. Just chip away at it. If you think you're gonna do 4 years, all right, I'm gonna start working on this leadership development consulting firm, or I'm gonna start working on this e-commerce business, whatever the case may be. But you got to start sooner than later, because when that phone rings or that person comes up and says you're about to be done in 6 months,
Yep.
it's not too much time. So if you could go back and do it again, when do you think you would start planning your escape of the military?
Yeah, I think as soon as I became a senior enlisted leader in
Yeah.
2006, I would have.
Okay. Fair
Because
enough.
that's your senior enlisted leader. So I mean, where else you gonna go?
Right.
Yeah, there's a couple of ranks, and by that time you're close to 20. So okay, you can retire at any time. But hanging my hat on the military making way for me was probably the wrong thing to do.
Yeah. And hey, you're here to spread the word. Same with me. And hopefully you guys don't wait till the last minute. Just chip away, figure out what it is. Even if it's, hey, I'm going to get out and I'm going to school right away with the GI Bill. Figure out what school you want to go to. Figure out if you're moving somewhere else. Figure out how to get the certificate of eligibility. Get all that stuff, in a folder, just like you do. You have your I Love Me book. You got all the other stuff, all your awards, all your documents, all your stuff. Get the stuff ready for civilian life as well. But you got anything else that we might have left out that you want to tap in on before we wrap it up for the day, Enrique?
Yeah, no, I do, I have shared some tough stories, some maybe not so encouraging stories, but the good thing is that you're not alone. Uh, but I will tell you, because I did feel this way. I did feel abandoned by the military when I
Mm,
transitioned, because it was literally, I left the gate and that was it, right? And
yeah.
that's the same for everyone. It doesn't matter if you're the Master Chief Petty Officer of the Navy, or not, maybe not that one, but but maybe
Maybe
other
though, you never
E9s.
know. Maybe, yeah.
But I know I felt that way, like I was abandoned, I was done all those years, and you'll have that thought, all those years for what? And so you can have that thought, but there are others that have gone before you. Reach out on LinkedIn, reach out on Veterati, reach out on through YouTube. Reach out, because we're out there and we're willing to help you. But you have to make that choice, right?
Absolutely. Closed mouth don't get fed. And you gotta take it upon yourself to get that information. And we hope that we can make a difference. And you guys do reach out. Enrique is looking to help people. He's got experience, and it's coming from a senior enlisted NCO. So don't be scared. Don't be ashamed. We're here to help. That's what we're on here doing. And if anyone's a veteran or a military member or a military change maker, reach out. The real 1% 1@gmail.com. I'd love to have you on the show. Don't let anyone ever tell you your voice doesn't matter, your stories don't matter, because I beg to differ. I'm sure Enrique can vouch for that as well.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter if you deployed. It doesn't matter if you sat in Hawaii. It doesn't matter if you froze in Illinois. It all matters, man. We rose our right hand. We took the call to action to protect the nation, and we're here for each other. The 22 a day is too many. The
Oh, yeah.
homelessness for veterans is too much. We got to end all that stuff, and it's going to take us to combine forces. Don't matter who you are, but if you're a leader in the military, continue to lead, and let's lead from the front, and let's make a difference. Let's get your stories out there. Let's get your voices heard, and let's get you out of the mindset you may be in. Let's have a paradigm shift in the right direction. We all needed it. I needed it. I felt abandoned. I felt lost. It takes time. It takes the right people to get around, but it's possible. And I appreciate you guys listening in, and I hope to hear from you guys soon. Enrique, it's been a pleasure, my man. I'm hoping to add value any way I can to your community, and I look forward to talking to you soon. And just thanks for everything that you do. And I'll be looking for some barbecue soon, my man.
All right, brother. We'll see each other soon.
All right, take care. Thanks for listening in. Have a good rest of your day. God bless all y'all. Take care.